Hey everyone, I'm Davin, the sales executive here at Kirkham Iron Tech, and we have here with us today Tom Kirkham, our founder and CEO. And today I just want to talk a little bit about cybersecurity for the general finance industry. That could be community banks, private investors, etc.
Yeah, that's a great question. When you talk finance, there's all sorts of that's a big umbrella, and we include accounting and investment advisors, treasury management departments, just anything related to finance, right? And so there's been a lot of regulations that affect some of those, like investment. The big guys and the little guys have a lot of rules and regulations as it pertains to cybersecurity, besides all the others. And one of them has been around, Sarbanes-Oxley has been around, I give or take 20 years, a long time. And chances are, if that's what your job is, you're probably pretty well protected, especially if you're, I don't know what it's called in that industry, but like a franchise.
Yeah.
J.D. Edwards, Ameriprise, Raymond James, on and on and on. So it's somebody local, and they've got the right to trade with them. And so they're going to dictate what you need to have to be in compliance. That you're probably pretty good. I would certainly hope so.
Better hope, yeah.
Yeah, but what I've seen is a disturbing number of community banks, independent financial advisors are a little bit looser when it comes to getting really tight cybersecurity in their office. And it's probably more common than you think. I know of a few community banks that have had issues with being breached. And I would suspect that it probably goes underreported because they certainly don't want to trigger a bank run. They may even be advised by regulatory agents to not report it. But it doesn't change the fact that if you're worried about your cybersecurity and you're not a part of a larger organization that says this is what you're going to put in, and they tell 1,000 or 10,000 of their agents, this is what you've got to put in, this exact thing, this exact computer, this exact software, and you get all your technical support and your cybersecurity monitoring through corporate, or they outsource it to companies like us. But if you're in that independent realm, especially accounting offices, most of those are smaller, independent one, or even larger ones. If you got 100 accountants, that doesn't necessarily mean you're well protected. And in fact, I know that's true. We got a newish client a while back, and they had everything in the cloud, and their provider said, well, we use AWS or whatever it was, so you don't have to worry about it. AWS is bulletproof, and it is. Their AWS is, but guess what? They're running Microsoft Windows, Microsoft Office, and other QuickBooks and other line of business apps that are breachable, regardless of how good AWS security is. But that's what they were hearing from their service provider, and then the service provider got breached.
Yes.
And I've seen it happen in insurance companies as well. And so don't think just because everything you have in the cloud, you don't have to worry about security. That's simply not true. The only difference between a cloud computer and the one that's sitting on your desk or the servers in the server room is physical location.
Yeah, you can go touch one, you can't touch the other.
Right, and it does help on security, right? If you can't access the physical device, that's a good security practice. But really and truly, it comes to 95% of breaches are caused by human error. They've clicked on a malicious file attachment. And once you pierce all of the security that AWS has, once you pierce that and you don't have any additional layers of security, it's going to fire off. It's going to happen. And it's not going to be just your company. It's probably going to be others. If you're getting this from, say, a line of business cloud service provider. So that's a huge myth. And I know there's a lot of organizations in the finance business that do that. So that's one piece of advice I hope you take away. But it doesn't change, no matter what your part of that big umbrella is, there's no technology that inherently is more secure without doing a risk assessment.
Yep.
Right? Some people think Macs are more secure than Windows. And I know that they do have some architectures that are designed with security in mind, that they might be a little bit more secure. But the simple fact of the matter is Macs are, less than 10% of market share. It's much more lucrative to attack the Windows platform. That's what keeps Mac attacks down.
Yep.
And this is probably not right, but, and I'm sure there's others, but iOS, your iPhone, your iPad, those devices, that operating system was written with security in mind. And they're pretty secure, but they're still not bulletproof.
Yes.
The hackers can get in there. It's just simply much more difficult. But Windows is a legacy. Windows was DOS for the first 3 or 4 versions of it, 3 versions of it. It was actually DOS. It just had a nice, pretty interface on it. So you're looking at an operating system that's almost 40 years old, I guess, 80s. Yeah, around 40 years old. So, the older the software application is, the more likely that security wasn't a serious thought.
Main factor, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the only hackers there were the people doing it for bragging rights. They didn't have professional hackers like we have now for the past 10 or 15 years that are making billions of dollars every year off of all these vulnerabilities and everything in the software business. But so when you're responsible for holding people's money and you have a breach, say you're a small community bank and you have a breach, if the word of that gets out, you're going to have a bank run.
Yes.
Now you get a whole different set of problems.
Plus the cyber attack still going on.
Plus the cyber attack still going on. Maybe you can't give people their money when they ask for it because the computers are down. But that you don't want to have a bank run, Yeah. And because that's catastrophic. And then chances are you're gonna be in a world more hurt than just the simple part of the cyber attack. So that gets back to do a risk assessment and address the vulnerabilities using a skilled security expert, a managed security services provider.
Yes.
Not an MSP, not an IT company. It's got to be security first. Now, we do managed IT services, but we flipped that on its head years and years ago to where security's job one, not productivity and efficiency. So when most professional service firms, they should be committing, it varies, but I use 10%, but it's actually the average of it's 9 to 16%, I think, for financial services firm. 9 to 16% is your budget for IT and cybersecurity of your gross revenue. And it works out to about $5,600 per employee per year. And that number doesn't vary, no matter how small or how large you are. That's a solid number. Of that entire IT security budget, 10% should be spent on enhanced enterprise level, DoD level, whatever you think the best is. That 10% of your whole IT and security budget should be spent on putting professional defensive services and tools in place. And if you're spending under that, don't pat yourself on the back.
No, you're missing something.
You're missing something. You have gaps.
Yes.
And it may be in leadership or management. And maybe you've been told by IT that this antivirus that this IT provider has been selling for 20 years is really awesome. Well, that's not effective any longer. It hasn't been for a few years. And that is, antivirus is getting less and less effective as time goes on. And right now, I pretty much consider it useless.
Yes, and we've even done other videos specifically talking about antivirus and why it's not good enough. But the main takeaway for anyone in the finance industry. If you don't take anything away from this webinar, I want you to take one thing, is that you need an assessment. It's a necessity at this point. Tom talked about gaps. Well, you don't know what gaps that you have, or you don't know what you're missing if you don't have an assessment done. You can't do your due diligence if you're not taking the proper steps of having that assessment, figure out what vulnerabilities you have, what gaps you have, and then developing and creating that plan to fill and address those vulnerabilities. And so if you're looking for an assessment, we offer those actually for free. We walk through companies with understanding exactly what you have at the moment, what you're doing well, and then find those gaps and give you a plan to fill those. But we do these every week. If you do have a question, feel free to reach out, and we look forward to talking to you soon.